but having practices that allow you to access states of mind that then allow you to be in sharper mental and focus and physical output.
Can you go into, because we've had a lot of people on this podcast talk about sleep. So, I mean, in terms of the way you look at it, because I feel like there's probably going to be things that a ton of things that you're going to add to that conversation. Because I know people who are like, I can't sleep at night, or I only get like 4 hours of sleep, or I wake up multiple times a night, and they're trying to do all the things like, getting rid of blue light and all these things, but it's not working. What are ways that people can become better sleepers?
Yeah, great question. So my lab's working on this, and there's a lab in Denmark that's done some really great work on this. I really want to give them credit as well. There's a practice. It has a goofy name, but we've stripped away all the goofiness of it and just taken the physiology out. There's a practice that's out there called Yoga Nidra, Nidra, which involves just lying down and you listen to a script. You can find these scripts on YouTube. I can send you guys the ones that I like. Some of them, it's like a British voice. Some it's a woman's voice. Sometimes you have to pick a voice that works for you. And it basically has you do 10 minutes of kind of like a body scan where you're focusing on different parts of your body and you're using breathing to relax yourself. It's some long exhale breathing. The beauty of this practice is twofold. First of all, it trains you to activate your so-called parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation arm of the autonomic nervous system. Teaches you to self-relax. Okay, so that's useful because most people don't know how to do that. It allows you to fall asleep faster. It allows you to stay asleep better. And the cool thing is, so this lab in Denmark showed that it replenishes levels of dopamine in this area of the brain called the basal ganglia, which are involved in motor commands. So when it resets the brain, so to speak, using very coarse language, but it kind of resets your brain. The fun thing for us in our lab was that we started to see that it puts the brain into states that are very similar to sleep, even though you're awake. So with all due respect to the great sleep researchers out there, I fundamentally disagree that you can't replace sleep that you've lost. First of all, there's no sleep bank. There's no like counter or timer. I think about it, and this came to me because you can imagine in like first responder communities, special operations communities, sleep is sometimes, it's not dictated. Those guys are sometimes on the vampire shift, right? So you can't really negotiate with it that well. But having practices that allow you to access states of mind that then allow you to be in sharper mental and focus and physical output are powerful. Yoga Nidra is a good example one. And I'd be happy to send you guys a script that we could post someplace of the one that we use in our lab. It involves lying down, long exhale breathing. You want to direct just enough of your attention so that you keep somebody engaged. The problem with pure meditation, where it's just kind of like third eye meditation, is the mind drifts. You got to give people something to hold on to, just enough. But then all of a sudden what you find is the brain starts going into really deep states of relaxation. And if you do this for a few days in a row, what you find is you start dropping really close to sleep. Sometimes you even think you're asleep, but then at the end it says, okay, you can open your eyes. Some people can't open their eyes. It's a little bit like hypnosis. And just to be clear, hypnosis is very powerful. I have a colleague, David Spiegel, in the Department of Psychiatry at Stanford, who's kind of world expert in clinical hypnosis. Similar, bringing people into a deep state of relaxation. I think everybody should have a 10-minute a day practice like this. It's also great if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep. It can help you fall back asleep. So have a practice to get better at sleeping if you're not a great sleeper. The other things that I'm really a big fan of for sleep is like, let's understand what wakes us up from sleep. The number one reason for waking up from sleep is you have to urinate. You have to go to the bathroom. That is because, and this isn't glamorous neuroscience, but it's factual. I teach neuroanatomy to medical students and graduate students. There is a direct nerve connection from the bladder to the brainstem, reticular activating system. So when the bladder is full, it makes you alert and wakes you up. So people should be tapering in their water intake off later in the day. We want to be hydrated, but limit most of your drinking water. I'm not going to talk about your other drinking, that's up to you, to early in the day. Okay. So obviously you don't want to be dehydrated, but if your sleep is a priority, you can't afford to be too thirsty or too full of water in the middle of the night. So that's an important one. The other thing is see morning light, getting sunlight. You don't have to see the sunrise, but see light within an hour of waking does something really powerful. You have a natural cortisol pulse that triggers. that sets your tone of wakefulness for the entire day. And then 16 hours after that, it starts to taper off, and you get your pulse of melatonin, natural pulse of melatonin, which will induce sleep.
Power Project family, how's it going? I want to talk to you guys about Within You supplements, which is developed by Mark Bell. The cool thing about Within You is that it's not a crazy supplement line which has a crazy amount of unnecessary supplements. They stick to what is necessary. Whey protein, electrolytes, and the electrolytes are dope because they have amino acids and they have zinc. Then there's fasting gum. So we talk a lot about intermittent fasting on the podcast, and this fasting gum has apigenin, rutin, and caffeine, which can actually help you prolong a fast. It's really freaking cool. It was developed by Mark and Joel Green, who we've had on the podcast multiple times. So you guys got to check it out. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
Now, a lot of people who have trouble staying asleep, they have plenty of melatonin, but they're not staying asleep. And that's probably because they're not seeing evening light. You also want to see light right about the time the sun goes down. There's 2 studies now that shows that really anchors all these hormones in the right way. Remember, hormones are working on the time scale of hours, days, and weeks. So cortisol is kind of like, be alert. It promotes acetylcholine, noradrenaline throughout the day, this kind of thing, dopamine. Then it tapers down. Then that melatonin pulse, boom. And now you've got serotonin. So the stuff that slow wave sleep for recovery and for brain plasticity. But having that practice of 10 minutes a day where you just chill out is really good. The other thing is just have a period of chilling out. Maybe that's on your phone, that's fine, but even better, just deliberately decompress. Even better, elevate your feet. Why do you sleep on the plane and get off the plane? You slept 4 or 5 hours and you feel like garbage. You sleep 4 or 5 hours in a bed, you feel much better. Well, brain perfusion. They've done studies now at Stanford and elsewhere showing that if the placement of the head relative to the feet dictates how much, if my head is here, I'm not perfusing as much just by, like mechanics and fluid, not perfusing the brain as much, not clearing out as much of the debris that accumulates in sleep, especially in areas of the brain like the hypothalamus that control kind of core functions like anxiety. So sleep with your feet slightly elevated, or during the day, if you're going to kick back and look at your phone or read a book or do nothing, elevate your feet a little bit, get them above your heart, and you're going to feel replenished when you stand up. Some people, like I have an inversion table just because I like those things. It's kind of just fun to hang upside down. That's taking it a little bit to the extreme, but I do use it for that reason. I just figure, drop a bunch of fluid into my brain and then slosh it out and, get back to work. But, that's a little bit, you don't need to do that. So you can get better at sleeping. And then I would be remiss if I didn't talk about supplementation. Look, if you're doing all the behaviors, and it should always be behaviors first, but there are supplements that can make you a much better sleeper. And I want to be very clear. I don't have a supplement company. So this is just, I want to refer everybody to examine.com. Great website. You can put in any supplement. It's got the human effect matrix with links to studies. It'll tell you if it was done in postmenopausal women or it was done in prepubescent kids. Like if it was mice, you can, get all the nitty gritty there. But 3 supplements in particular have radically transformed my sleep, just speaking from my own experience, not my lab's work. And it's what I recommend to people if they're doing a lot of other things well and they're having trouble sleeping. First one is magnesium threonate, THREONATE. It's a form of magnesium that acts as a little bit of a sedative, and it promotes slow wave sleep, which is the really deep restorative sleep. A cocktail of magnesium threonate, and I think it's like 366 milligrams of elemental, but then 2,000 of the kind of, you can look at, but basically I don't want to recommend brands because that gets dicey, and then I want to stay unbiased, but it's all basically the same as far as I can tell. The companies will probably say different, but the other one is theanine, THEANINE. You're seeing theanine now showing up in coffee and in energy drinks because it removes jitters. The reason it removes jitters is that, and it acts as a sedative, is it promotes the release of GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that kind of shuts down the forebrain. So people have a hard time turning off their thinking. That can be helpful because in order to fall asleep, you got to turn off your thinking. Again, I recommend behaviors like yoga nidra first, but if you're going to go to supplementation, theanine's good. 100 to 200 milligrams, maybe 300 milligrams. If you're a sleepwalker or you have really vivid dreams, back off on the theanine because it'll get you like spooky, crazy, fun, wild dreams. But if you are a sleepwalker, that's not good. And then the third one is a supplement that hardly anyone knows about, but is really an interesting one called apigenin, Apigenin. It's actually a derivative of chamomile, and it acts as a sedative. Great for men. It's actually a potent estrogen inhibitor, but not great for women. It's a potent estrogen inhibitor. So just 50 milligrams of that in that cocktail is great. Now, all of these, fortunately, are very inexpensive and easy to find. And I just want to put a box around it. That's not what my lab works on. This is stuff that I've been involved in researching a bit and my own experience. And again, I think supplements should be I always say there's behavior, which includes mindset, but not like Mother Nature installed technology, work those first. Then there's nutrition, got to have your nutrition right. Then there's supplementation, and then there's drugs. And always best if you can work up that staircase, stopping where you need to stop based on your lifestyle issues and that kind of thing. So I think a lot of people jump in here. They're like Ambien, and I do not recommend supplementing melatonin. For those of you who are testosterone conscious, melatonin's primary role is not to make you sleepy. Its primary role is to suppress puberty during development through suppression of GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. So it's what keeps kids from going into puberty. They have tonically high melatonin, and it's also what makes them sleep a lot. So people who are taking a lot of melatonin are taking hyper physiological doses of a hormone legally, right? Unlike other hormones, you can just go buy melatonin, which is weird, but okay. But it's suppressing basically the androgen axis. And in women, it's suppressing the estrogen axis. And people come at me a lot when I say this. They're like, well, it's mostly mouse studies. Okay, take your melatonin. That's up to you. But I don't think it's a good idea. And Matt Walker, who wrote Why We Sleep, would also say that melatonin, I think I'm quoting him correctly, forgive me if I'm not, Matt, that it helps you fall asleep but not stay asleep. So that's kind of the kit around sleep that I think can help. And becoming a better sleeper is a great skill to focus on, because I do think you want to stay off your phone in the middle of the night. Don't wake up and start looking at your phone. There's so many studies now, 2 in particular, that show that it suppresses dopamine release for the following 2 days. Like it triggers a kind of active depression. And that dopamine, now that hopefully I've drawn a box around it, also is you want to protect and enhance and nourish your dopamine. That and how to activate it. You don't want anything pushing back on it.
Hey, baby.
I'm joking. Guys, like, comment, subscribe, and head to the Power Project Discord, all right? I know you enjoyed the video. Speak to y'all soon.